The year is 1998. Manchester City have just been relegated to the third tier of English football for the first and only time in their history. This represented the lowest of low points for the blue half of Manchester. But fast forward a quarter of a century, and they appear to be on the brink of winning an unprecedented treble. So, can they do it? Strap in, because today we're analysing every angle of City's bid to become Premier League, FA Cup and Champions League winners. First up, let's talk ownership. City's meteoric rise over the past 15 years is almost certainly down to the Abu Dhabi United Group, or ADUG, and the hundreds of millions of pounds they've pumped into the club. Perennial underachievers before the Emiratis took over, City fans had to endure the ownership of Thaksin Shinawatra and Lee, Bernstein and Wardle before him. That all changed in 2008, as Sheikh Mansour took over with the backing of ADUG. Since then, Manchester City have been a powerhouse in British football, dominating the league picture and safely ensuring that Manchester has, in fact, been blue for the past decade. Mansour hasn't been backwards in coming forwards where investing has been concerned either, and has revamped the squad numerous times during his stewardship. Since he came to power, City have won 6 Premier League titles, which is more than likely going to be 7 thanks to Arsenal's recent collapse. They've also won 2 FA Cups as well as 6 League Cups, making them England's most successful club over the past 10 years or so. The driving force behind a lot of City's success has undeniably been Pep Guardiola, who has introduced a brand of football to England which had rarely been seen on these shores before. Guardiola took over in 2016, and there's been a steady flow of trophies ever since. So, could he be about to land the holy grail of the big 3 every football manager craves? Let's break it down. How about their chances in the FA Cup then? The oldest cup competition in the world could have been a little kinder for City this season, especially in the early rounds. After seeing off Premier League rivals Chelsea and Arsenal in the 3rd and 4th rounds, they went on to dismantle Bristol City, Burnley and Sheffield United in a cup run which has so far produced 17 goals for the citizens. Oh, and they're yet to concede in the competition this year too, with Manchester United booking their place in the final courtesy of a penalty shootout win over Brighton a couple of weeks back. Fans of the game will be treated to a Manchester derby come cup final day at the beginning of June. United, whilst having certainly improved this season under Erik ten Hag, are still susceptible to the odd collapse. This was in full view earlier this season as they were trounced 7-0 by their most hated rivals, Liverpool. The red half of Manchester will be desperate to stop City winning the treble, but with Lisandro Martinez sidelined, United are looking frail at the back. This doesn't bode well for their upcoming final against a rampant City, who, as usual, are finding form just when it matters. With Erling Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne cutting through defences like a hot knife through butter in recent weeks, you probably wouldn't bet against City securing their 3rd FA Cup in the Mansour reign. Of course, there is a path to victory for United. If they can make the game scrappy and turn it into a midfield battle, like lesser teams used to try and do against them, they could provide a shock. The way City are playing right now though, this seems pretty unlikely. And how about the Premier League? At the start of April, every man and his dog had all but crowned Arsenal champions of England. But under the Emiratis, this is when City's season traditionally starts. April and May are their months, which just so happens to have coincided with an Arsenal mini-collapse this season, which looks for all the world like it will gift City their 7th league title of the 21st century. They simply come alive at this time of year. With Arsenal drawing 3 games in a row, including one at home to lowly Southampton before being outgunned at the Etihad by dominant City, the title is firmly in Pep's hands. Both teams have decent fixtures in the last few games, which suggests the title could already be done and dusted. Arsenal play Brighton at home, then Forest away before rounding out the campaign with a home fixture to Wolves. City play the dire Chelsea before trips to Brighton and Brentford. On the face of it, the final 3 games of the season could slightly favour Arsenal, but you still wouldn't expect City to drop too many points from here on out. Brighton will also have a huge say in where the title goes, as they have to play both of the top 2. So, could Roberto De Zerbi's band of free-flowing attacking football-playing men throw a spanner in the works of the City machine? It's certainly possible. What do you guys think? Give us your predictions on where the Premier League title ends up below. Next up, we're talking Champions League. If the league title represents arguably City's easiest chance of silverware this season, the Champions League must represent the most difficult. Having breezed through the group stages, the men from the Etihad then oversaw the demolition of not one, but two German teams in the shape of Leipzig and Bayern, who capitulated worse than their compatriots at Stalingrad. However, the semi-finals will be anything but easy, as City come up against 14-time winners Real Madrid. Even in the seasons when Madrid didn't perform well on the domestic scene, they are still a very real threat in Europe and have won the Champions League 5 out of the last 10 seasons, a quite astonishing record. Around the world, the name Real Madrid is simply synonymous with this competition, and the idea that City are going to have the tie all their own way is quite some way wide of the mark. That Champions League noose is evidenced in wily old operators such as Toni Kroos, the evergreen Luka Modric, and the lethal Karim Benzema. With these old heads providing the experience and know-how, this allows their younger players to go out and express themselves to the full. Yes, Real do have some old legs in the middle of the park, but that is offset by the running of players such as Eduardo Camavinga, Federico Valverde, and the very real goal threat of Vinicius Jr. They also look set to bring in Jude Bellingham this summer, right from under the noses of Man City. And with him in the team, they would surely be a huge European obstacle for City and others for the next decade. This season then may represent Guardiola's best chance of Champions League glory, with former main road tenants. Let's talk some keys to victory next. One of the biggest weapons Man City have in their arsenal is their relentless style of play. Pep was one of the first to fully employ the back-to-front model, where teams play out from the back. This often provides easy-on-the-eye goals, as is the style many have copied over the past few years. Of course, for the system to fully work, you need to have excellent technical players in your side, which Man City have in abundance. You see teams who don't have such technically proficient players trying this every week, often to disastrous consequences. I mean, why would you ask your players to play out from the back when you're in the relegation zone is beyond me, but criminally, it happens. 99 times out of 100, City gets it right. With defenders who are comfortable with the ball at their feet like Kyle Walker, John Stones, and Nathan Ake, the ball seamlessly works its way into midfield where they have Kevin De Bruyne pulling the strings. I mean, it helps that they have other world-class operators like Bernardo Silva, Ilkay Gundogan, and Riyad Mahrez around. The one-touch football these guys exhibit is a joy to watch most of the time, with the interchange between them one of the key factors in confusing defences up and down the country. And with Erling Haaland at the top of the pitch, burying chance after chance, it's almost as if they have their own life-size cheat code in the team. Haaland's form this year has been nothing short of incredible. I mean, we all knew what City were getting, but for him to hit the ground running in this fashion probably wasn't expected by many. Haaland's presence could just be the difference between City winning 1 or 2 trophies and winning all 3. So, is there anything standing in their way? I know, it sounds as though City have it all sewn up and it's just a matter of time before they're crowned kings of England and Europe, with an FA Cup win thrown in for good measure. But it's not a complete lock just yet. One of the biggest obstacles facing City could be Pep Guardiola himself. Yes, the Spaniard is a revolutionary manager in many ways, but he's been accused in the past of tinkering with his team too much in a bid to bamboozle other managers. This has led to suggestions that he overthinks things far too much, which was clear as day for all to see in the Champions League final back in 2021. City should have walked the Champions League that year, but in a bid to stay one step ahead of his German counterpart Thomas Tuchel, Pep picked a team which simply malfunctioned. Unbelievably, Guardiola chose to go into the biggest game in City's history with no holding midfielder, which, for want of a better word, backfired. With players of such quality, the worst thing you can do at times is overcomplicate things. These guys know what they're doing. They don't need excessive instruction. If Pep wants to win a historic treble this time out, he needs to learn from his previous mistakes. He could do a lot worse than simply sticking to basic instructions along the lines of, give the ball to Kevin. How do you rate City's chances of a treble? As usual, thanks for dropping in today and remember to swing by again next time for some more fun and games. Oh, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Bye guys.